Greetings. I'm Don Lustenberger with DCI. I'm joined by my colleagues Dave Schmidt and Barbara Nett. We're here to talk about recent developments in artificial intelligence in the personnel selection space. So, New York City recently passed a law that goes into effect on January 2nd, 2023, concerning the use of artificial intelligence in personnel selection tools. There's been some buzz about this new law, and not long after it was passed, the Society for Industrial Organizational Psychology, or SIOP, put out a statement on the use of artificial intelligence in selection. Dave and Barb, let's break down the new law, the SIOP statement, and talk about why all this is important to employers, including those operating outside of New York City. So, Dave, what's in the New York City law that employers need to know about?
Sure, Don. So the New York City law requires employers who are using automated employment decision tools, or AEDTs, in their hiring, promotion, or other selection practices to do three things. First, for each AEDT, you need to have an independent bias audit conducted that minimally includes disparate impact for race, ethnicity, and sex. Second, you need to publish a summary of the audit results on your website. And third, in advance, you need to notify candidates that an AEDT is being used and describe the job qualifications and characteristics that are being evaluated.
Okay. And so there are several areas of ambiguity with respect to this law, right, Dave? Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, good question, Don. So there are four areas where guidance from the city would be really useful. First, the AEDT definition is very broad. It clearly covers tools using various forms of artificial intelligence. However, it could also be read as including many traditional non-AI used tools using statistical modeling or data analytics. Second, our read is that the audit is triggered if applicants are New York City residents, but the language is not entirely clear there, so let's just get that clarified. As you can tell, these first two areas have an immense impact on the scope of the tools to be reviewed, and they should be relatively easy for the city to clarify. Much more challenging, however, is clarifying the requirements for the bias audit and disparate impact analyses. Generally, you want to examine these issues from multiple perspectives, consider key contextual factors, and so on. There are a lot of different approaches you can take with this, and those choices can certainly impact the conclusions drawn. Finally, they're vague on how much detail is required for the published audit summary. Guidance or examples here would be really useful. Those are some of the areas we're hoping the city will address in the upcoming months.
Okay, so New York City has enacted this law, but they're not the only ones looking to address the use of artificial intelligence in selection, right? Barb, where else have we seen similar laws crop up, and where do we see things heading?
Well, perhaps not surprisingly, Don, general artificial intelligence bills or resolutions were introduced in at least 17 states in 2021, and laws have been enacted in Alabama, Colorado, Illinois, and Mississippi. But with regard to employment, Illinois passed an Artificial Intelligence Video Interview Act, which went into effect January 2020 and imposes consent, transparency, and data destruction requirements on employers that use AI technology during a job interview process. Also in 2020, Maryland enacted a law that requires notice and consent prior to the use of facial recognition during a job interview. And Washington, D.C. recently proposed legislation to protect individuals from automated decision making on the basis of protected characteristics with regard to decisions, including but not limited to employment, credit, and housing. I think we can expect that similar legislation is likely to appear in other states as AI technology continues to impact hiring and other areas of business. Also, the routine auditing of these systems will gain traction as the call for more transparency increases to ensure these systems are operating effectively and in a non-discriminatory manner.
Hmm. All right, let's talk about the SIOP statement on artificial intelligence and selection. What's their position on this matter?
So, SIOP issued 5 key criteria for evaluating AI-based assessments. SIOP states these criteria are intended to represent only the minimal requirements necessary to justify the use of AI-based assessments for hiring and promotion decisions. Importantly, these guidelines are applicable to all personnel selection procedures, which includes those leveraging AI. Finally, SIOP notes that IO psychologists are rigorously trained in the development and evaluation of tests, assessments, and other selection procedures used to make hiring and promotion decisions. And as such, we've been advocating for accuracy and fairness in hiring procedures for decades.
All right. So Dave, we're seeing state and local governments as well as SIOP responding to trends in employee selection. If I'm an employer, what do I need to know? How should I plan for what might be ahead?
Right. So if I'm an employer, I'm thinking about four things. First, what tools am I using or planning to use that involve machine learning, natural language processing, and so on? I know those tools are going to be in scope for a lot of these laws. Second, do I know how each of the tools works? Is it explainable? Does it make logical sense? As you heard from Barb, transparency and explainability are recurring themes with these laws. If you can't explain how an algorithm is working and how the features used are related to the job, I think that's a problem. Third, and these are important for any selection tool being used, but what evidence do I have about its predictive accuracy or its validity? And do I have information about how different demographic groups score, so its potential for disparate impact? Finally, I want to involve my legal counsel right away. They're very important partners for considering the laws and requirements that have been around for decades and for navigating these emerging laws and requirements.
Dave, Barb, thanks for sharing this information. If you want more information about the New York City law or DCI's perspective on artificial intelligence and selection, follow the links provided along with this vlog and feel free to reach out to DCI with any questions that you might have. Thanks.